Brilliant. Thank you, Cameron, for the introduction. So one quick thing, we've made a slight amendment to the agenda that we've sent. We also want to cover a little bit of the commissioning and what we think is a perfect installation or a perfect site that is ready to hand over to the customer. So we will cover that. And we'll spend a little bit of time also maybe listening to your challenges, and just to bear in mind that what we're going to show on the roadmap isn't set in stone. So if you have specific things that you need to win more projects with Tether, we want to work with you and give you a tool that helps you solve problems for customers. So jumping into the first part of this slide deck, it's just a quick reminder of why Tether, why we've created it, why we think it's quite unique, and there's a place for it in the market. So the idea is very much we connect all physical security. So whether that's video, access control, ANPR, two-way audio, whatever it may be, that's in the sphere of physical security, we want to connect it. We want to bring it into a single app, so that instead of using an app for your cloud video surveillance and then an app to manage your alarm and then an app to manage your CCTV health, for instance. So instead of having these 4, 5, 6 different apps, it's very much you have a single place where you can log in, you can manage your customers, access the information. It's a consistent, straightforward interface, and you're not having to learn entirely different systems and platforms. So the idea is very much open platform, no lock-in, use any hardware you like, anything that you've used in the past, and chances are we can help you make all of those things work nicer together. So Tether either fully replaces a VMS or a PSIM type system. For those that are not aware of what a PSIM is effectively something that is usually a very complicated piece of software that brings hundreds of different systems together. It's all about process and audit. We don't want to be a PSIM system, but from our experience, a lot of the time the customer's requirements are not quite that extreme, in which case either they can use Tether as completely standalone, or Tether can be used to complement a very complex operation of a large organization. So we're talking about financial institutions with tens of thousands of sites. So to date, we've been around for about 10 years. We have over 1,000 customers using the platform. We've been predominantly in the UK. So we're a British company developed in London. We now have an office in Devon as well. But for 2022, we are also going to be launching in the US, which we're quite excited about, and that would be our first kind of expansion outside of our primary target market. So in terms of what Tether brings to the table, we have these 3 keywords for both installers, integrators, and end users. So for installers, it's very much just having that visibility, when engineers are going to site, what they're changing, ability to undo, ability to onboard new engineers quicker. Just having that visibility of everything that's out there and what state it's in. So we believe that the conversation with the customer needs to be more of a proactive one, more of a positive one, where you speak to them and say, we've noticed these problems, we can rectify them before they cause any specific downtime. And it's just a much nicer conversation to have than getting a phone call saying everything's down, usually swear words, blaming you as the installer. So we kind of try to provide those tools so you know what's working, what's not, and being able to fix those problems ahead of time. Also in the age of COVID and just in general, when we were developing this system, we actually used to be integrators ourselves. So going back 10 years, we used to do installations ourselves. And we were lazy. We didn't want to go back to site. We didn't want to turn up on site, realize that we're missing one specific component. So a lot of what we've built here was based on personal pain that we tried to resolve. And we do have this stat now that we reduced engineer visits by 40%. Sometimes that can be more. The idea is that you can plan better. You have a map. It shows these 3 sites have a problem in this region. This is what you need to bring to the site to fix it. And then instead of going back and forth as you're not quite sure what to bring, you can handle all of these problems with a single visit effectively, just going to those sites. And also it's very much about maintaining all of those customers, and for integrators we also say monetizing those sites. We don't want to just charge customers for nothing, but we think that Tether really helps you build a service offering that the customer benefits from. And that allows you to offer services such as cloud backup, machine learning, health monitoring, so things that the customer really needs and are happy to pay for. And it also means that we are growing our businesses. So the more subscriptions that the customer has, the better it is for your business. You have that stable recurring income, and the better it is for us, because without you guys, we have nothing. We work through the channel. And for the end user, it's very much that solid, secure, and straightforward message. There is a concern with IoT, with alarms, with video surveillance, putting it up on the internet, that either it won't record something when it's supposed to, or there's potential opportunities to get those systems hacked. They could be very complex. You might have, as I mentioned, 4, 5, 6 different apps that you need to learn. So all of those are challenges that we try to address with Tether, to give you something that you can rely on, something that has full encryption, both in transit and at rest. We have a security white paper that talks in detail about how we make that possible. But the message for the end user is, you get this solid, secure, straightforward central dashboard that lets you streamline all of your operations, everything to do with physical security. So moving on to what it is. So the Tether platform is a combination of a native app for either your phone or your tablet. So we have iOS and Android native apps. And it's web-based for accessing on laptops, desktops, video walls, whatever it may be. So really straightforward to use, really modern. It feels like YouTube or probably Facebook is not the best example to use anymore with everything that's happening with them. But it's modern, so it's something that is not something that requires installing a specific piece of software on a Windows machine, etc., and then connecting some port forwarding, etc. It doesn't work that way. It works like Netflix. So this is a new slide that we've put together last night, actually, to try to explain how everything connects and how Tether fits in the bigger picture of physical security. So the idea is the Tetherbox is both a secure gateway and it's an NVR. So it can record footage. It can also complement existing devices out there, so it can complement your recorder. It doesn't have to replace it. But the idea is all of those devices on site, they have mixed levels of security. They might have different firmwares. Some might connect over serial, some might connect over IP. It's a bit unpredictable, and it's quite difficult to get all of those devices secure directly. So the idea is, by dropping a Tetherbox on site, it connects to your access control, your alarm panels, your video surveillance, your matrix displays, whatever else you need. It creates that secure channel out, and then you can consume or control those devices in many different ways. So either you're opening our app directly, our web interface, you can feed this information directly to an alarm receiving center. So your customer might already be working with an alarm receiving center, or they have a control room, so Tether can provide tools for that. You can embed things like the live view into your own app or into your own website, or into some sort of dashboard. So all of this information is accessible in many different ways. So Tether is that magic box that you throw on site, and all of a sudden, all of those offline devices can be monitored, managed, and maintained in a consistent way, regardless of manufacturer, model, firmware, etc. So as I mentioned, it can either replace or upgrade your existing NVRs or VMSs, and it's one single app for all of those different product categories in the security industry. So just a refresher on the product range. One thing I want to stress is that we're a software company. So all of these products are off the shelf. We provide them for ease of deployment, for ease of use, so that you don't have to worry about building your own machine, setting it up. You can just get a box from us. But if you ever do want to use your hardware, you are very welcome to do so. But these are the three form factors that we've standardized on. The reason is that the little box is a very good entry-level product that can be installed pretty much everywhere. Price-wise, it should pay for itself quite quickly. So one engineer visit saved effectively, makes the unit pay for itself. Then one step above, another actually reason why that Tetherbox is important, it's incredibly low power. So in situations such as solar vehicles, we have integrators installing them on the side of lampposts and the side of buildings. It will lend itself very well to these types of applications. Then you have the mid-sized product, probably our most popular product. So even when customers might have 40, 50 cameras, we see that integrators really like the form factor. It's not a huge bulky box that you need to try to install, try to ship to site. You can install multiples of these, so Tether will work seamlessly by just allowing you to have as many units as you like on a single site. So if you have 100 cameras, you can either put 10 of these boxes in, or potentially we can just spec a single rack mount unit, which will record up to 150 cameras. So we provide that option. That unit, just for transparency, is built by HP. So once again, we're a software company, but we'll use the best hardware that we can find with a 3 to or sometimes 5-year warranty from the manufacturer, and we can help you come up with either a form factor or a piece of hardware that meets your needs and your customers' needs. So every unit requires a small annual platform fee. Prices are available in the Tether timeline, so you can access that by pressing Help, Partners, and there's a full list of what the platform fee is. So moving on, what can you connect to this magic box of ours? So we now have a database of 12,000 plus different camera and recorder models from over 150 different manufacturers. So that can be accessed through our knowledge base. I will show in the live demo how to access that knowledge base. In terms of video surveillance, we also integrate with ANPR. We have whitelists, blacklists. We can automate parking. We can trigger relays. So we have quite in-depth ANPR integration. We can also do things like search for a license plate across all sites. So you can quickly find a vehicle of interest, jump to that event, see all the information in context. So quite a lot of ANPR functionality, quite a lot of PTZ functionality that's being used by highway agencies. They're using presets, wipers, lights, they're triggering relays, they're doing quite a lot of more in-depth stuff with PTZ. We've also recently added ability to change between continuous or kind of manual PTZ. The idea there is on some cameras, it works better to press. Every time you press, the camera moves sort of 20 degrees left or right. Now you can just press and hold the button as well for continuously moving the PTZ. Two-way audio as well was a big request, especially from alarm receiving centers. So now you can speak to people on site. We support Axis horn speakers. We've just added Hikvision, so you can do two-way audio through Hikvision. And there's also a 3.5mm jack directly on the unit, so you can connect any horn speaker to have a cost-effective solution for two-way audio. We always prefer native drivers where possible, where the manufacturer has native drivers, but we also have full on-riff support. So the next two are quite interesting, and this is quite new for us. So one is we integrate all of the analytics that your device has, and then we have cloud analytics to complement that. So the idea there is in certain applications, cloud analytics work fantastic. So if you wanted to detect if someone's wearing a hard hat, or if someone's not being supported when they're going up on a ladder, chances are to achieve that level of functionality will be incredibly expensive. You would need to have big infrastructure, big servers running expensive software, whereas doing this in the cloud makes sense. But certain other things, it's just adding that additional monthly subscription for every camera might be cost prohibitive. So a lot of cameras these days have pretty good built-in analytics. So we try to leverage both, and we try to give you the tools to build a solution to the customer that both meets their needs and their budget. I'll talk a little bit about the analytics in the demo as well. So in terms of video surveillance, we connected just about everything. That was the first product category that we've added to Tether. So this is our strongest integration, but we also integrate with alarm panels and access control. So alarm panels at the moment, it's the Texacom Elite panel. So that's all of their panels up to 640 zones, and Eaton Ion panels as well. Texacom use a serial connection, and Eaton use a RESTful sort of network connection. So if you have an Eaton panel on the network, we can connect to it and control it. On the roadmap, we have DSC, Honeywell, Ajax, and AX Pro from the new panel from Hikvision. If you have any other alarm panels that you would like us to integrate with, please do get in touch with us, and there's a good chance we can add them quite quickly. So in terms of access, I keep scrolling. In terms of access control, this is our latest edition. So we did not have access control before 2021. Now we have full integration with Paxton Net 2, and it's a very in-depth integration. So we can back up the database to the cloud. We can enroll users. We can keep the users in Paxton in sync with the users in the cloud. So if you have a user that needs to have access to multiple Paxton systems, we can enroll them in parallel. So it's a very powerful bit of functionality, and I'll show that in the live demo as well. So other things we connect to, ARCs, pretty much all of them, Image Sentinel, PIC Central, whatever it may be connected. Even if we're not listing something in this list, we provide the tools for you to just copy paste the URL into your alarm receiving center software of choice, and you can have Tether provide both live view as well as access to past events. Relay sensors, so if you need to automate gates with ANPR, for instance, you can do that. We have, as I mentioned, a full API now, so if you are trying to build your own custom application and you need it to work nicely with either some other cloud service or some other product on the market, either we can do the integration directly, or potentially it could just be a case of copy pasting some URLs. Just as an example, Control 4, they allow you to copy paste a URL for live view, so we can very easily add a Control 4 system or add Tether to a Control 4 system without kind of doing any additional work on our side. And also we have done some projects in 2021 which are a bit more in depth. So if you do have a specific project requirement that needs a bit more of a hands-on approach, it might need a custom interface, a custom dashboard. In this specific application, what we've done is we've automated a very complex interaction for physical asset management. So they need to actually list all of their physical assets in the platform, and those physical assets are then described as these are the alarm zones that are responsible for them, these are the cameras that are responsible for them, and the system then knows how to group that information and notify the owners that there's a problem with their physical asset, for instance. So that could be, just as an example, imagine tennis courts. You could create a system where you use Paxton to enter the site. We automatically disarm the relevant zones in the alarm panel. We take a snapshot on the video surveillance. We unlock the doors. We switch on lights, whatever it may be. So those types of applications can be automated with Tether. So in terms of once you've got Tether, I'm not going to read through all of this, but I will be sharing this deck afterwards. But the idea is very much that you get this powerful tool that helps you solve problems, that gives you actionable information. Well, as I mentioned, I'll share this, but it's very much built for engineers. It's not built for the customer first and foremost. And the reason is we were engineers ourselves, so that's how we think, and we wanted to build a tool that allows us to provide a better service to our customers. But customers also get quite significant benefits. It's Instead of 5-6 different apps, it's a single app. Instead of rewinding and fast forwarding for hours, it's show me anytime somebody went into a warehouse at night, and then the system will show all the warehouses that they own and when somebody entered, just as an example. So they can do things that would normally take many hours or potentially days or weeks, either driving to site or dialing in to each site one by one. So if they care about saving their time, then Tether is probably the product for them. It's the security aspect, it's the peace of mind aspect, it's making sure that they don't get unexpected fines because somebody hasn't updated a firmware, or somebody broke into a system, or somebody got hold of an admin password and that's in violation, and suddenly they have fines and they have to change the admin passwords everywhere, then they lose the admin passwords and they actually can't access the evidence. So all of these problems go away with the Tether system. And as I mentioned, security is quite an important one because we ring fence all of those devices that they have, and they can then be securely accessed with a full minute-by-minute audit log, which I'll show in the demo. So for alarm receiving centers, this is also something new for us in 2021. We are working very closely with the likes of Imix and Sentinel. The idea is, instead of getting instructions from them where you have to set up each camera individually, one by one, very laborious process, very error-prone process. If something goes wrong at any point, the alarm receiving center is not notified that the system or that the specific camera disconnected. So it's quite also a fragile process. With Tether, it's very much you tick a box that I want to onboard, and I'll show how this is done. But you tick a box that you want to connect it to an alarm receiving center, and presto, they'll start receiving alarms based on how you've set it up. So when you're putting everything in the cloud, when you're putting everything on the internet, obviously the biggest consideration is security. And we have a white paper, so there's a QR code on the top right that you can scan to look at the details of how we make sure that this is secure. But we do quite a lot, including we have a penetration tester on staff, and everything was designed from the ground up to be cloud enabled first and foremost, and security is a huge consideration of that. So in terms of what we've added, I've covered some of this already, but to summarize, there were actually more than 3,000 improvements to the platform in 2021. So it's quite a leap forward for us. I think it's the biggest leap of the past 10 years, and it will just keep accelerating. So the idea is we want to be a global platform for physical security. We are launching in the US, and in order to make that happen, we had to really think about that this platform is scalable to millions, tens of millions of devices. So it's very much, it can scale down to your simple installation where someone just wants to pick up their phone and find a delivery of their Amazon package. But also it's that bank branch that has 20,000 ATMs and need to monitor them in a central platform. So what we've added a full API that can now be used by third parties to integrate with Tether. We have a full searchable knowledge base. I'll demonstrate that in a demo as well. This is all new. We've added access control to our list of integrations. That's quite a major one. I will also demo that one. Ability to connect to alarm receiving centers, as well as built-in alarm handling if somebody wants to take control room operations in-house. I'll show that in the demo. We've introduced the advanced cloud machine learning and analytics, and that list will keep growing. If you have specific requirements for cloud analytics, do let us know. We have plans of adding a long menu of the best analytics that are out there that we want to be really straightforward on Tether, so you can just tick a box and all of a sudden you have very complex analytics that would normally require huge infrastructure changes, whereas with Tether it's just tick a box. Many improvements to video. So as I mentioned, two-way audio, PTZ presets, parking automation. We also keep camera time in sync. You might have noticed an icon in the platform for our users that shows you when we are not able to set the time on the camera. So for instance, if the permissions are set up on the camera not to let us make that change. But another one of those useful things where we not only looking after the health of all of your components, but we're also making sure that they're set up right. So if we detect that something isn't quite right, time doesn't match on the camera and the unit, we'll pick that up, we'll try to fix the problem, but failing that, we'll at least let you know about it. Many new partner tools, so we've completely revamped our cloud pricing to be very competitive with others out there. So I'll show that on the quote tool, but we now have far more affordable options for 24/7 video surveillance backup to the cloud. We also provide pre-billing reports now. So the idea is 2 weeks before your invoice, you get an email from us saying this is what's upcoming. And if anything there isn't right, you have the opportunity to go in and make changes so that you never get invoiced for anything unexpectedly. So you always know what you have and what the next invoice will look like. So those are some of the improvements that we've made in 2021. Obviously just scratching the surface, as it's over 3,000 there. If you scan the QR code on the top right, it will take you to a page that talks a little bit more in depth about these improvements. All right, so the moment we've been waiting for is the live demo. So let me share a different window. Here we go. So in the live demo, I'll cover first and foremost the setup process and what we think is kind of the perfect site. I'll cover some of the key benefits, key functionality of the platform. So that's real-time events, ability to share, tunneling, maps, audit, all of those kind of unique features that I don't think we've seen from our competitors. I'll also talk about some of the new tools that I've mentioned for partners, and then we'll go through a quick demo of the specific modules. So the modules are video, access, and alarm being the primary ones. So in terms of the setup, it's pretty straightforward. If you've never set up a Tetherbox before, it's usually you would just scan a QR code on the unit that will take you to the activation page. It will fill in the details for you, such as the serial number. So that's probably the quickest way. Other than that, you can go to our website, press activate your Tetherbox on the top right. That will take you to the activation page. And you can also do this from the platform. So if you are already signed into the platform, you can click on admin Tetherbox. So you've got the activate new right here, and you also have it on and you have it on the Tetherbox page. So you have it in a few different places. If you can't remember anything that I've said now, chances are you'll stumble onto the activate new button somewhere. So once you are in the activate new, you can fill in the serial number. So here I'm just using a demo serial. The page will immediately tell you if the unit is offline. So it will give you a bit of information as well in terms of when it disconnected. So to give you that background. If you scan a unit that you don't have permissions to, it will, if it hasn't been activated, obviously it will take you to this page. If it has been activated, it will give you some details about that it's online and who to contact in terms of the person responsible. So that even if you have an engineer on site or somebody that you've subcontracted in to help, they can still check that the unit is working. So they have that basic information by scanning the QR code. So the next step is either adding it to an existing customer or creating a new customer. So we have this, what we call a timeline. The timeline is effectively a separate legal entity. So you might have a situation where there's a franchise. The franchise might have different owners. So each owner would have their own timeline, for instance. Some businesses that range in the tens of thousands of sites, they might want to have different timelines for different regions, for instance, or for different departments, whatever it may be. But generally speaking, if it's an individual, you would either use their name or their street or whatever they fancy. If it's a company, you would use the company name. So once you've either created a new one or picked an existing one, the next step and the next and final step is to just give a bit of context to us about the unit, and really it's more for you so that later on, You can search for the unit by postcode or by name or by something you've added to the notes, or by location. You can look at it on the map. So it's optional. You don't have to fill in the full details. You can just put London, London, for instance. But that will kind of reduce your user experience. You won't see the exact position when you go to map view, which I will be demonstrating in a second. One other noteworthy thing, so once you've picked a location, if you picked an existing location, you have this additional feature replacing existing Tetherbox. So the idea behind this feature is if it's a really old box that that was there for 10 years and failed, or you need to upgrade it, or someone stole it, or there's been a fire, whatever it may be that made the original box inoperable or inaccessible, by choosing the original box and saying this is replacing that box, the system will migrate all your cameras, devices, alarms, access controls, everything. So everything that was set up on that original unit will be migrated, and your customer will just be able to access it as usual without seeing any difference at all. So the idea is, instead of spending half a day, potentially longer, reconfiguring all of those things from scratch, Tether will just migrate it across and automate that installation for you. So once you've activated the box, you will receive an email similar to this saying that, thank you for activating a box, with details of the activation. So you can always find the details in your email if you ever need to refer back to those details. And the next step is usually to add users, give them permissions, etc. So under users, you can create new user and then decide what permissions that user has access to. So another key difference between Tether and many systems out there is you have one single user and then you decide what that user can do. So it's not a case of I'm adding a user to this site and then I'm adding a user to this site, and then if each of those sites might have a different password and the user forgot the password to one of the sites and then you have to spend a few hours on the phone with them. It's the same email, the same username. It's just when you set up the user, you decide what that person can do. So you can fill in first name, last name. I'm just going to put some sample stuff. You can also decide whether you want to onboard the user yourself. So there might be a situation where you really want to sit down with them and go through this process, or if you leave the send welcome email ticked, I'll show you what the email looks like, but they'll receive a user manual. They'll receive links to download the apps from the App Store. They'll be giving a little bit of information of how to use the product, and that email can also be custom branded for yourself, with your colors, with your logos, etc. So the idea there is you can add and onboard users very easily without having to really show them anything. Here you can select everything that they'll be notified about. Permissions tab allows you to customize specifically what they can do. Can they share footage? Can they watch live view over internet? You might want to have a person that only watches live view when they are on site. So there's no reason for them to access over internet. Do they need to see license plates if you have that functionality? If you have alarm panels, it will give you options for alarm panels. But the idea is you can select multiple sites. So if I go to the demo, I can select other sites as well. And once you've picked the sites, it will also let you customize if you want them to have access to all cameras or specific devices. So they may need to have access to see live view at the skip, or the other way around. So they need to have live view access for everything, but you only want them to be able to access recorded events on one of the cameras. So you have that granularity and that control. So that's what setting up users looks like. So by default, they'll receive an email. They can go straight into the platform and start using the product. If you've set up an admin user, so in here in the drop down, you can select admin. Admins can turn off commissioning mode. So chances are you probably want to add an admin user once you're done commissioning, not straight away. Commissioning mode is in itself quite interesting because it what we call it support access as well. So the idea there is once you hand it over the system, the customer can turn off support access. You'll still be able to see all health information, subscriptions, so kind of all of the stats, all the dashboards, everything still works. I'll show you what those stats look like, but you won't be able to make changes to the system other than lock the customer out if they haven't paid you. So you'll still be able to, in the user interface, to deactivate the user, and the user will be notified that this specific person has switched off their account. But you will not be able to make changes. You will not be able to, other changes rather, or see cameras. So this way we are protecting you as the service provider and ensuring that you get paid. But at the same time, we're protecting the privacy of the customer so that they know that nobody's looking at their cameras, nobody's making changes to their system. And if they were, they'll be able to see it in the audit log anyway, so I'll demonstrate that. So that's how you add users. The next step is to then add all of your devices. The system will pick up most devices automatically. So it's just a case of going to the table and seeing the device that you have. If the device is brand new out of the box, the system can activate a range of different models from different manufacturers. So we will actually set a static IP on the camera. We'll set a unique password for the cameras. All of that will happen automatically. And you will see what the password is set to by pressing the I symbol, and then it will tell you the password. Obviously, this is just a demo password, not something that we would use. If the camera has already been set up, then we can't connect to it because we don't know the password. We'll show a little helpful tooltip here saying that please enter the password for the camera. So in most cases, the only thing you need to do when adding Tether and connecting cameras is you specify that password. You can double check that the password works, and that's it. The camera will start recording and you don't have to take any more steps when setting up cameras. If you do want to start customizing how the cameras work, then we do have quite a lot of different functionality, including setting up subscriptions. So if you wanted to add health and safety, advanced cloud analytics, you can tick, I want health and safety, advanced analytics, and that will be switched on that camera and then added to your pre-billing report for that month. If you want to switch on cloud backup, it's just as simple. So you select, I want to have 30 days. For instance, I don't want time lapse. I want, this is a busy shop floor. And then you've got your price, your integrator price here, which will be customized depending on your discount level and your level of partnership with Tether. I'll talk through the partner program as well at the end. So very straightforward. You can specify masking as well. So this camera is switched on, so we're not seeing the mask, but you can draw masks. You can specify schedules. If you have set this up to report events either to a user or to an alarm receiving center, you can customize specifically which events will be reported. So for instance, you've set up object removed, but you don't actually want that to be sent to an alarm receiving center. You can take that off the list. It will still record. You can still find events by these analytics, but they will not send through an alarm to your alarm receiving center or send push alerts to the person's phone. So that's how you customize the config of the camera. Setting up alarms is relatively straightforward as well. With Eaton, it's very straightforward. It will find the alarm and you can just specify the installer passcode, and then you have virtual keypad, full control over the panel. I'll talk a little bit more about how alarm panels are controlled later on. This is just talking about the setup. For Texacom, you need to get a serial cable. Once the serial cable is connected, you again specify a password, in this case a UDL password. You can specify your site reference if you're working with an alarm receiving center. This is where you would enter it. And you can also switch on connected if you are a connected customer. You can find full information how to add Texacom by just clicking on the help button on the bottom right. You can either speak to us directly, so there is a live chat if you ever get stuck, or you can search, for instance, for Texacom, and then we have a page here that talks about how do you connect Texacom. So this is the cable you need, this is where you get it, this is where to connect it on the panel, and this is what you'll see once you've added the panel to Tether. So that's how you set up an alarm system. Similarly with access control, you would click on access. It will, in this case on the demo unit, we have access disabled, but normally you would see a button to add a Paxton, and we have some others in the pipeline, you would press that button and then you just enter the IP address and the user credentials of the Net2 system. And I will be showing a live demo of this just a little bit further down. So we've covered adding devices. So you have your cameras, your alarms, your access controls. We've covered adding subscriptions. And we've covered setting it up kind of ready for alarm receiving centers and notifications. So how do you add an alarm receiving center? It's pretty straightforward. You would have separate locations, and then each location might have different settings. So we allow you to customize this on a per location basis. You will edit your location where you enter more details. This is what you fill in during activation as well. So the information you filled in when you've activated the unit will be seen here. And if you switch over to the Imix Sentinel, you can switch that on and then set up the details that they provided on their side. So just by entering those details in this one place, all of the cameras, all the access control systems, all the alarm panels, everything that you have on that site will automatically start feeding through to the alarm receiving center. So instead of setting all of this up one by one, it is a much more streamlined process. So that's roughly speaking an ideal site where you have your video, you have your alarms, you have your access, you have somebody that's going to respond to these events and potentially call the police for you, call key holders. You have some form of subscription where they're getting additional value from either machine learning or cloud backup or whatever it may be. And that's our vision at Tether, that you can build those solutions, you can add these different components for the user, and then it goes without saying, you will receive your health alerts, you will all of that carries on working. Just one more thing I want to show at this part of the demo is this is what the user will see when you add them to the platform. This is the welcome email. So you will say, welcome to, at this case it says Tether, but if you have custom branding, it will show your details. It gives them a link how to access, where to get the user brochure, how to get support. So that's what that email looks like, as well as where to download the apps. So it's a nice little welcome email that you can refer to if a customer ever says, where do I get the app? You can say, check your welcome email. So that's the first part. Next, I'm going to jump into showing how this looks on a day-to-day basis for a user using this. So here we have different cameras coming from different sites. So the idea is very much that you don't have to dial in between specific sites. It will even show you if a site is offline, when it went offline. If you had cloud backup, you'd be able to see what was recorded. So here it even says, it's a little nudge for the customer that, well, did you know that if you had a subscription, you'd be able to see this event right now? Please get in touch with your integrator. So it's always, the way we operate is we nudge the customer of what's possible and to speak to you guys to get that set up. You can also have this in table view. So the advantage of table view is you might have a control room situation where they need to actually dismiss events. It will track who dismissed events when. So this can really replace an alarm receiving situation for simpler applications. And this will mimic what we've sent through to the alarm receiving center. So if you are working with Sentinel Imix, you can see what's highlighted in yellow or red are the things that were sent through to the alarm receiving center, so you know what they've seen. These icons here show which types of analytics were triggered, whether they're coming from the camera or not. So this analytic, vehicle detected, is reported by the camera. In this case, it is an ANPR camera. This analytic was triggered by machine learning. So you can see we have, for demo reasons, we have both Calypso and Deep Alert enabled on this camera. But usually you would use one or the other. You don't necessarily need both. And it's just a really simple interface that brings all sites together into a single place. So if you wanted to see if there was specifically a vehicle, and then you can specify that you want it to be just one specific site. For instance, I'll pick home. Actually, I'll do Calypso vehicle because that's just to show the machine learning at work. So it will show every time the machine learning have picked up a specific vehicle. And what the system tries to do to save you a bit of time is that if things keep happening, so if the event is ongoing, it will try to group it into a single event so you have everything in context. But if you ever do need to just see absolutely everything, I want to see every single car. So you can specify that, okay, let's pick that specific camera, and I'll show you how, and then you have this new button here that says expand events. There's also something we've added recently, which will then blow up all of those individual events and show you every single camera, every single thing that happened during a required period of time. So we have all of these various tools that let you easily access recordings, easily find them. You can, if you don't want to watch the full recording, you can see time-lapse images to see what happened there every 5 seconds. Was a person loitering? What was the interaction, or did they just walk past? So normally all of these things will require specifying a date and time, rewinding, fast forwarding. With Tether, it's really straightforward. You specify, I want to see somebody going into a shop at night, and all of a sudden you might have 1,000 shops and you can see every time somebody went in at night. So things like that would normally be very, very complicated. Once you found the event of interest, you can click on share this event, send it to a person that needs access. That could be police, that could be somebody internal, and they'll be able to go and see that event without downloading anything, without setting anything up, without USB sticks, without driving to site. Really, really straightforward. One thing we've added also to this event table is the ability to, I'll jump over back to events. So you have this button here, CCTV, that's the expanded view, and then events is where we try to group all of the information together in context. So in the event view, you can also perform actions for multiple events. So you can do this both from the thumbnail view as well as from the table view. So if you wanted to select multiple events and you wanted to share those events or to flag those events or to close, whatever you need to do with those events, you can now do that for mass events. So imagine if you had 6 hours worth of footage from 2 different sites and you need to share that with police. You can just run the correct filter, just drag a box around those events, press share, and then type, dear Mr. Policeman, here's all of that footage that you needed access to. So you don't have to specify the from time, the to time, create the video, export the video, wait for it to render. It's all very streamlined. So customers love it because it just saves them huge amounts of time. It's really simple to use. A lot of the times what they would do is they would just create a temporary user, send a person temporary access. They can find the event themselves. They don't have to sit there for hours with a security guard. They don't have to send a recorder off-site to be analyzed at the police station, for instance. All of those problems go away. So that's, let me share a different screen. All right. The reason I switched there is this site has access control, which would be, I think, interesting to demonstrate. So another thing that you can do with the system, actually, let me jump over to map view, because I think that is a good way to think about it. So all of your sites can be accessed from the map, and what we've done here for the purpose of the demos, we've randomized all of these points. These are technically live systems, but we've just moved all of these points plus minus 5 miles on the map so that you can't actually find the specific site. And for the purpose of the demo, we can't actually click through to those sites. Whatever we press on, we'll actually see the same 2 cameras which are coming from our demo site. So just for your benefit, we take security incredibly seriously. So if support access commissioning mode is switched off, then we can't access anything. And whenever we're doing these sessions, we have fully randomized data so that your information is safe. So from this page, we can peek into cameras. If there were health problems, it would summarize the health problems. The map is color coded. So this is really powerful to just get a snapshot of everything that's out there and what requires your attention. You will also get this as part of an integrator report, which I'll show in a second. But from here, what you can do is, if you go into a site, I'll just go into our demo site. Where was it? Here. So if I open the parking camera, for instance, what I can do then, so this is an ANPR camera, is I can create a tunnel to it. So what tunneling allows us to do is it allows us to do the equivalent of driving to site, plugging in a laptop, reconfiguring that laptop's network to be on the same network as the device, and then typing in the IP address of that device. So with a single tap, effectively, you are straight into that camera without having to drive to site. So that's quite powerful, and one of the favorite features that integrators talk about, and it really saves a lot of time. So you can remotely update firmwares, reconfigure devices. For instance, the ANPR lane on the camera might have not been set up right. This allows you to go in and change it without having to worry about port forwarding or VPNs or kind of the limitations that you normally get with manufacturers, that you might be able to see live view, but you might not be able to necessarily make analytics changes. So all of that goes away. You can access that device as if you are standing next to it on site. The tunnel will automatically close after 60 minutes, but you can also force that by just deleting the tunnel, and then the tunnel disappears. So that's really useful. We also have a full minute-by-minute audit log, as I mentioned, so anything that is done on the system can be interrogated. So here we have an event showing that this specific minute of footage was viewed. If they were viewing live view cameras, it will say which ones and for how long. If they were making changes, it will say what changes were made. You can undo those changes. So it's a really comprehensive in terms of everything that's done on the system. You can search specifically for made changes, downloaded footage, shared footage, which types of devices the customer used to access. It's very comprehensive. We try to also identify the internet service provider, and we try to identify the user on the map, so you have really a lot of context to figure out, what that person was up to. So that's the audit log. We also have a stats dashboard. So these are all kind of just giving you a sense of what we are thinking when we develop Tether. It's how do we build more of these types of dashboards? How do we give you relevant information, actionable information? All of this is exportable, so at any point you can export this to an Excel. If you need to run your own analysis, we can email this to you as an Excel. So another dashboard that we thought would be useful is to just have one single place that shows any problems and where they are. So it'll tell you latest recordings, when things stop working, if passwords are not set up right, if cameras haven't recorded in a while. So it really gives you a lot of insight. It gives you insight about your tether boxes. I'm not sure if we have this switched on a demo. And it also gives you insight about packet loss as well. So for the demo, on the demo, we've switched this feature off, but try this on your timeline, and you'll be able to see even packet loss on the network. And to access this, you just press admin and then health, and that will take you straight into this page. All of this is also summarized either as daily or weekly reports. So here's an example of what that report might look like. So you will get a nice visual email saying what was installed, what's working, how customers are using it. This is just a small one. If you have many sites, it will show you anything that's not configured quite right, if there's frequent power cuts, if a hard drive is about to fail, if something's overheating. So whatever the problem might be, camera blinded, packet loss on a network. So we have a long list of growing checks that the platform does, and they are all summarized as a single actionable email that you can then speak to the customer and get some time in the calendar to go in and whether that's replacing a switch or installing a new camera, everything is here. Let's see, what else is on my list? So multi-site security and app. Okay, so we've covered how to find and access events, how to find your units on the map, how to tunnel to devices, how to check what's happening on the system, various dashboards, statistics, health, integrator reports, exporting information out to Excel, etc. And all of this is also available through the app. You don't have to use a laptop, you don't have to use a desktop, you might be on the road, you might have just a phone with you. If you resize the browser window, it will actually show you what the app looks like. Roughly, it's not 100%, but it kind of just gives you an idea. So all of that is still accessible. So you still have all of the different bits of all of the individual modules, your audit log. You can even still export to Excel if you want to. You can set masking. As far as we know, there isn't anything that you can do on a laptop but you can't do on a mobile device. We've kind of from the get-go, we understand the challenge of being up on a ladder and having to troubleshoot and resolve problems for customers. So everything works on the mobile device as well. So if you haven't already, please download our apps from the App Store. So we have native apps for iOS and Android. So now specifically two other things that I want to cover before we go back to the slide deck. And that's first of all the individual modules and how they're set up and how they're used. So that's your video, access and alarm, and then the specific partner tools that I mentioned at the beginning. So in terms of the video functionality, you can create presets for live view. You can cycle between the presets. You can actually select to see all cameras in specific locations. So whether you have 4 cameras or 4,000 cameras, we kind of scale up and down very nicely here. If you had PTZ or two-way audio, those buttons will show directly in the interface. You'll be able to press them and speak to somebody on site, move the cameras around. So all of that is fully integrated into effectively 2 buttons that are primary to the platform, which is events is to access past information, and live is to see what's happening right now and to control anything that you may need to control. So if a camera has a relay, you will see a button to trigger that relay, whether that's opening a gate or whatever it may be. So that's how the video aspect works. I've already covered how analytics work. You can filter by those analytics at any point. Now, access is the new one for us. So we have this new tab here for access control. And this information is pulled in real time from a Paxton Net2 server. So for instance, scrolling through, we can see exactly when somebody taps in, where they're tapping in. If it's an exit button, it's not going to give us a token number. If it's somebody's Paxton token, we actually pick up their name. That name is kept in sync with the Paxton Net2 system. So I'll show you how that's set up in a second. But the idea is that you've got this separate tab, and we do something similar for ANPR. I don't have a live demo for ANPR, but it's instead of seeing access control information, you see license plates, you see a picture of the license plate. So for access control, you can always interrogate and see when people are arriving, to which buildings, at which time. You have the visual verification right there. If you press on a specific event, it will take you to the footage, so you can see how long they were there, what they were doing. You can obviously have time lapse, as I mentioned before, so you can without even playing the video, you know exactly what was going on during that access control event. Straight in this very same interface, you can see if anybody else watched this event, and you can see the full information from the access control. So you can see that Mitchell swiped in, and you have full details of that access control event. So really straightforward to use, groups all of the information in context. When you share this event, it will actually send all of that in context. So the policeman or whoever will see the names, they'll see details of when they entered the building, when they've exited the building. You can add additional information. So if you wanted to give a bit more context, you can add comments, attachments, tables, whatever you need. So everything is really well integrated when it comes to access, alarm, ANPR, and any other sources of information that we have. We bring them together and show them as a single event. So this all looks fine, but how is it set up? So if you go into your access control system, you can see just how in-depth the integration with Paxton is. So we have all of the access control units. You can specify which access control units we respond to and how. You can assign the nearest camera to the access control unit. You can remotely open and close doors if you need to. You have the full Paxton Net2 database in sync. So if you wanted to make a change to a specific user, you can go into here, change their access levels, change their the PIN codes, access tokens, whatever it may be. If you have a Paxton reader, you can plug that reader to your laptop, and then as you swipe in, it will fill in their access token. So you effectively can fully manage a Paxton system remotely and have it backed up in the cloud. But once you've assigned a camera to an access control unit, the system automatically knows how to group the information together, how to give it context, and every time somebody swipes in, it knows that we need to take a snapshot of that person because you've made that mapping in the settings. And to keep things simple, the interface for alarms is quite similar. So you have your alarm zones, and then you specify which camera is relevant or the closest camera to each alarm zone. And again, that's how the system knows how to group the information. So you might have a single event with alarm data, access control data, ANPR data, camera data. So that's how the system knows how to create that context. From alarm, you also have a full virtual keypad. You can trigger output, you can omit zones. So all of those things are really straightforward. If you needed to omit a zone, you just press this button and it will be omitted. So those are the three modules, the video, the access, and the alarm. So finally, talking about the tools that we've built for partners. So if you press help and then you press the quote tool, so everything that I showed on the camera subscription page, you can also access directly from the help page. So if you're trying to put a quote together, you don't yet have a device to actually set up the services, you can always access it from here, and the price that will be displayed is the price that you have set up. So this is a bit of a sales tool with your customer. So you can sit down with your customer and drag the sliders around, customize this specifically for their needs, and the price that they see is the price that you've customized. How you customize it is if you go under partners, click on general, you've got the partner quote tool. So that's separate from kind of the primary quote tool. And under the partner quote tool, you can then see, what is the list price. You can see your partner discounted price, and you can see the price that your customer will see, which you can customize by just dragging the slider, and you can decide that, I want to make a 30% markup on these services, and it will immediately show you that, okay, that's the list price, that's your current partner discount, and this is what the quote tool will actually show. So that's really useful, and it just lets you, it's optional, you don't have to do it, but if you're sitting down with a customer and not quite sure what they want, and they're not quite sure what their budgets are, from our experience, they might say, I want the 2 years, 24/7, backed up to the cloud in 4K, give me a quote, and then when they see the quote, you've lost that business because that's not a sensible requirement. Whereas you're just sitting down with a customer and figuring out, well, hang on a second, say you do need it for a year, but do you really need it 24/7? Or maybe if we just do time lapse during events, or maybe if we just back up specifically when an alarm went off, and maybe we'll do the cloud backup in a slightly lower quality because you still have the local recording, and then all of a sudden you can come up with something a lot more logical and reasonable that will meet their requirements, their true requirements. From here, you can also access marketing PDFs. You can access price lists. If you wanted to see up-to-date price lists, they are here. So that gives you a snapshot of popular services. And if you are customizing this for your customers' requirements, then the quote tool gives you, infinite variations, or millions of different variations that you can generate. You also get a pre-billing report. So as I mentioned, once you've set up subscriptions on your cameras, once you've activated units, you will always get an email from us saying, this is what's upcoming, and you'll have 2 weeks to make any relevant changes if something was switched on by accident, or something's no longer required, or conversely, if somebody forgot to switch on a subscription, that gives you that opportunity to make sure that everything was set up right. So that concludes this demo part. But what we'll do is in the Q&A, if you want me to cover anything specifically in the platform, then I'll resume the screen share and then we can talk about it. So going back to the slide deck, so we've covered how to activate your perfect site, so to speak. What are the key bits of functionality and how the platform's used. So that's either finding, sharing events. If all of those events are appearing in real time, you can use this in a control room setting. You have your color-coded map. You have the ability to tunnel and remotely manage and maintain devices. You have your minute-by-minute audit log, stats dashboards, health dashboards. Everything is multi-site. Everything is security first, GDPR compliance, PCI compliance. The commissioning mode, the permissioning system. We have two-factor authentication, which is something I haven't showed, and all of that flows through to a positive app experience as well. You've got your partner tools, which we covered, and then we've got the three primary modules and how they're set up and used on the Tether platform. So moving on, this is what we are at the moment planning for 2022. So for us, we think the next step for Tether is to build a marketplace. The idea behind the marketplace is you'll be able to select my customer is a retail shop, or my customer is a housing association, or my customer is a financial institution, and then we'll show the relevant analytics and services and hardware and solutions that are out there for that type of customer, and how Tether integrates all those solutions together. So the idea there is, we're never going to develop everything ourselves. There are products out there that are vastly superior to anything that we can come up with. But where we are strong is bringing those different solutions and making them work nicely together. So a lot of the times what would happen is you find a specific analytic that solves your specific problem, but it requires you to use a different piece of software, and that needs to be set up on expensive hardware. There's a very difficult entry barrier in order to deploy that specific analytic. So with Tether, we want to make it really straightforward. You tick a box, it increases your monthly invoice by a few pounds. You upsell that to the customer, and off they go. Or they might already have an expensive bit of hardware on site, but it works completely independent from everything else you've installed. Tether helps you bring all of these components together into a single platform. So Marketplace is a big one for us. Next is more integrations with other cloud services. So for instance, Ajax have a cloud service. Hikvision Connect is a useful cloud service for managing specifically Hikvision devices. So the idea there is all of those devices that you already have set up on another cloud, if you want to access them directly from Tether, you will just enter your username and password. We'll pull all those across and you'll see them together with everything else that you have. Next is, of course, more integrations with more devices. So whether that's more access control systems, alarm panels. One thing that we quite like is the idea of biometrics and specific access control units that have facial recognition. So the first kind of obvious one, because we already have the API integration, is Hikvision, but many more to come. So if you have a Suprema fingerprint reader, for instance, those are candidates for us to integrate in 2022. Another thing is to have, right now you have the event handling. So any new events, whether that's somebody entering a building or fire or whatever it may be, they get handled and put into this kind of flowing events table, which is very searchable. It's what we think is a great user experience. But there isn't really a place anywhere right now where you can see, okay, well, which notifications have we actually sent and who they were sent to and when, and have they responded to them, and if a camera goes offline, or rather if a switch goes offline, we might send 16 emails because that switch happened to have 16 cameras. So it's things like that where we can just say, okay, these are the notifications that were sent, those were the problems, that's how the users responded to them. And it's also grouping a lot of that information together so that you don't get individual alerts, but you get a single grouped alert that is a lot more digestible. Beyond that, it's giving you the ability to, instead of just using the dashboards that we have, and we'll keep improving them. We'll keep adding new dashboards. It's just being able to tell you, okay, well, these are all of the different graphs and charts and tables and numbers that the platform collects. Drag them into your own dashboard and create your own kind of custom view for your customer, for yourself, that with the information that you need to run your business, not necessarily the information that we think you need. Presets, so we have presets for live view. We don't at present have the ability to save presets for search results. So this is something that we'll add. Right now, to achieve this, you will just bookmark the page. So you have a workaround, but it's not perfect. This will make it into an official feature. And the advantage of having search presets is also you'll be able to share that preset. So if you've set up something that, okay, this is the stuff that we care about, and we have 10 people that need to respond to it, you can share that preset and they know that, okay, that's their default preset, and that's what they're going to be looking at. And then finally, a rules engine. It's right now, if you want to build complex interactions between all those devices, so that could be if you see a person on the front camera, switch on that light, disable that alarm zone, and unlock the door, for instance, whatever it may be. So to create those interactions is very possible, but right now it means pressing the live chat on the bottom right and telling us this is what I'm trying to achieve, and we will kind of add that on the back end. So we don't have an interface yet for you to set up these advanced interactions yourself, but that's something we will add. So for now, if you do need to create some advanced interactions, just let us know. But in 2022, we are going to build a kind of step-by-step interface for you to build those interactions yourself. So once again, this is not set in stone. So if you have specific requirements for hardware integration, specific features that you need, something that your customer is asking for, just please speak to us. And if there's a project that that we could win together, we will support you, and we will figure out how to get that developed. If it's a bit more speculative and we don't have kind of a live project for it, we also offer custom development services. So if you want a unique feature, a bespoke feature that is only specific for you. So I've touched on that earlier with our kind of physical asset management. So they have kind of a specific type of physical asset that they're keeping a record of. That's not available to anybody else. That is unique to them, and we are not allowed to sell it. We're not allowed to do anything with it. This is something that they've paid for as a custom development for them. So the Tether platform also allows you to speak to us. We can build a specific solution that is your intellectual property, but runs on top of Tether, because Tether allows you to then control and bring all of those different things together. So that's the roadmap. Just touching quickly on the partner program. We'll if you haven't seen the partner program document, this is a quick summary. So it allows project registration. That means that if somebody else bids on the project, you have your protected price. We work closely with our partners. So if you suspect that there could be multiple partners bidding on the same project, please do register that project so that we price support you. We do project referrals. We will keep you updated on latest improvements. I know recently we haven't been great at it. This is one of the motivations for this session, to talk about everything that was added, and going forward we will be sending a quick monthly push alert saying these are the highlights, and click here for the full release notes, so that you can see exactly what's being done behind the scenes and what new integrations and functionality is coming to Tether. So just to touch on, so I've mentioned that each unit has an annual charge. This is originally, actually, our model was not to have a mandatory charge, but in conversation with integrators, we've learned that what tended to happen is they would quote a system with a service charge, and then somebody would quote a system without any service charge, and it just kind of undercuts our own partners, which we don't want to do. So the idea is to keep the annual charge low enough so that it's not a burden, but we believe it needs to be there because the platform is about building solutions and giving customers a better user experience. It's not about just box shifting and installing a camera and walking away. It's about building that longer term relationship, and by having some either monthly or annual commitment, our experience has been that not only builds a better relationship with the customer, but it's also something we feel quite strongly about, because it means that we are responsible to you. We'll keep supporting you. We'll keep improving the product, because there is that recurring aspect. But also it means that we are all growing our businesses. So it's about, once you have that recurring stream of revenue, it rolls over to the next year. You get a bit more stability, especially in these uncertain times. And it's Tether is a tool for the engineer to increase the value of their service, of their business. And I think this is the best way of doing it. So other than that, it's as I mentioned, you can have live chat is available both in the product and on the website. So if you ever have any questions, if you get stuck with anything, if you have any project requirements, just press the live chat, speak to us. We're here to help. We also have a number you can call and speak to somebody on the phone. In fact, on the live chat, if you ask to speak to someone, we can actually initiate a call directly from the live chat, which is I realized something that nobody knew about. So hopefully this is useful information. But we can just literally press a button and you can speak to us directly without having to wait on the phone. So there's that, and that concludes the presentation. If you want to book some one-on-one time with myself, with Cameron, with other members of the team, you can swipe that QR code. There's also one for frequently asked questions. So with that, I'll open it up to chat, and I can see there's a few messages here. Let me see if there's anything I haven't covered.
The first one, Roman, is from SAP1.
Uh-huh.
About 11:10.
Got you. Can we set up a PTZ test on a... Safwan, can you comment on what do you mean by PTZ test?
Yeah, sorry, I was waiting on the question. What I mean by that is we have a number of PTZ cameras out in the field. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, to go through every single one to move a camera, it will take a mammoth task. Mm-hmm. So can we automate, like on a monthly check, to say that, let's just say 5 cameras on a side, I just want to just test the movement on that camera, just move it left and right, up and down, just zoom in out, and then we can say, yeah, we're fine with that. Because there's sometimes when you don't have any activity on the site and then you forget about it, and then you think, oh, wait a minute, there's a camera missing, or there's a PTZ that's not working.
Got you.
Can we automate that, or is that something that Tether can do?
Yeah, so there's a few, there's 2 ways you can go about it. So one, we have our API. So the API is allows you to pretty much do anything. So if you wanted to move a camera, if you want to take a snapshot, you can do that using our API. So if you have any experience working with APIs, if you have any developer on site, say you're the person that designed your website, they'll know what to do. They can send requests and then get exactly everything that you're asking for here. So you can actually, Tether allows you to build things like this very easily yourself by providing the relevant tools. So that's option number 1. Option number 2 is we can have a separate call and talk about kind of specifically how to present this. And it seems like something we can add to the Integrator report, so that once a week or once a month, you, as part of that report, you also just have a snapshot from every camera, for instance. So let's take that conversation offline. But it sounds interesting, and I think something that will benefit everybody.
100%. Yeah, and the second question, which I elaborated on, was day and night images. So the problem that I face, especially in the winter season as well as the summer season, is something that we call scene change, where in the summer season we have cameras, no problem, they work fine, but then you've got the foliage that's constantly growing. So you could have a tree that's covering the camera, or in the winter season, you've got leaves that's covering the camera.
Sure.
So what we would like is something where Tether can do a snapshot of a particular, all the cameras should say a day and night image of the snapshot of the site, and then drop us an email to say we've got X amount of cameras where the scenes change because foliage. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be foliage. It could be, for example, car dealerships. They put flags outside for sales, for marketing, so they cover cameras by accident. So it could be anything. So we could do with something like that for an automated snapshot of the cameras. Is that part of the AI, or is that something that will need to be developed?
Good question. So there is part of that in Calypso, for instance. If you switch on,
yes, I've seen that in Calypso. Yeah.
Exactly. So if you tick that box, then automatically you'll start receiving some of those alerts. Beyond that, many camera these days will detect if they're blinded and things like that. So a lot of them you'll just get straight away, just based on, I mean, anything manufactured in the past couple of years will do some of this, not all of this. In terms of taking snapshots of the reference image of how it was when it was set up, for instance, and then tracking those changes over time, I think this is something that Check My CCTV do, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So it's just an automated process where, let's just say you've got 1,000 sites.
Yes.
And all you want to do is check take a quick snapshot of all your cameras on that site, a day image, a night image, and to do a monthly report and say, well, okay, we've got X amount of cameras with poor quality, and X amount of cameras which are normal and are fine, instead of manually going through every single one.
Yes, of course. So right now we'll detect if there's image degradation, if a camera was blinded. So some of this we do, but not quite or everything you've described. This is something that is on our roadmap. We don't have an exact kind of time frame for when this will be available. But as I mentioned before, if we prioritize things that have live opportunities, so if there's kind of a specific use case, or if we can have a conversation and then you tell us, okay, there's 50 sites that need this if this was added, then we can prioritize that, and it sounds like something we should be able to deliver in the space of a month or so. It's not a huge amount of work.
Perfect. Let's chat off call at some point, and then we can discuss more further.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Safwan. All right, let's see. Oh, yeah, question from Martin.
Martin, are there additional costs when integrating with access control and alarm panels?
Yes, good question. So access control is a new product category for us. On the basic functionality, so what I've demonstrated today, actually not everything I've demonstrated today. So in terms of assigning cameras to control units and having that visual verification, so all of that kind of base usage, all of that is included in the annual platform fee. But what we'll start charging for extra is things like if you ever need to restore a Paxton database to a new server, for instance, so we are backing up that Paxton to the cloud, or if you want to build it as part of a time and attendance system where we need to add a bit more logic, a bit more functionality, that we'll introduce a kind of a access control plus package, which would be either a monthly or annual fee that then allows you to do a bit more of that advanced stuff. But on the basic level, just grouping access events with video surveillance, seeing who entered the building, seeing the access control units, all of that basic functionality is included in the platform costs. And similarly for alarms, if you are just controlling alarms, that's absolutely fine. We will, again, probably likely introduce an alarm panels plus service, which will do things like detect health problems and just give a bit more of that advanced functionality for managing hundreds, thousands of alarms. Martin, does that answer the question? Not sure if Martin's there.
Thanks very much. Yeah,
brilliant. Thank you, Martin. All right.
Okay. Next we have Mark. So can we see how to integrate with a client's SSO environment on the user access to the portal?
Yes. So we through our API, you can pull the user database, and we have two-factor authentication. So we have tools that will allow a single sign-on provider to integrate with us. In terms of us integrating with a single sign-on provider, it's another one of those things where there's a few primary ones that kind of are obvious for us to integrate, and we've actually planned this out. So we do have this on the roadmap, but again, one of those items that might shift around depending on other priorities that have live opportunities. If there's a specific requirement that again we can justify prioritizing for, then we will. It is single sign-on is definitely on our radar. So Mark, let's take this one offline as well. But absolutely interested in adding single sign-on.
Okay,
With the
great.
live chat.
And I believe the next one is from Jatin, asking if you wanted to integrate a biometric reader to the software, what details would we need?
So the biometric reader right now, hang on, let me just stop sharing because it's not letting me see the full chat. Bear with me 1 second. So the biometric reader is, we are starting off with the hike range just because we have all of the APIs and integrations for the most part already. If you have specific ones that you want us to integrate with, just let us know, manufacturer, model, size of the opportunity, and this is something that we'll consider. We haven't finalized our access control roadmap, so we still haven't decided whether we integrate with Salto next or with HID. So this is a perfect time to speak to us and let us know that that we should integrate with this access control and with these biometrics, and we'll prioritize them.
Great, thank you. And just finally from Josh, how can you connect? Can we connect to Hide Pro Connect and Hide Connect? And if so, how?
So this is one of the roadmap items that are covered. It's going to be soon. So Hike Pro Connect, we're already internally testing. But the way this will work is in your user profile, so the user icon on the top right, if you press that, it allows you to set permissions, to change your email address, to add additional information such as contact numbers. So we'll have a tab there that will be called Cloud Services, and if you open that tab, it will let you add a Hike Pro Connect and an Ajax account. So once you've added that account there under your user profile, when you go to your alarms page, it will just automatically show all of the alarms that are currently set up on Hike Pro Connect and other devices that are set up on Hike Pro Connect. So this is something that is right now in testing. It hasn't been released yet. If you actually want to be a beta tester, we can add you to our pre-production environment, and you can play with it even before we officially release it.
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
Sorry, guys. I just got one. In terms of target markets, Roman, there's the possibilities to integrate with other systems is endless, and there's an awful lot in the domestic space with home automation and that sort of thing. Are you just basically gravitating towards the more commercial side of things, or is the domestic user figuring on the radar at all? And I'm talking about things like interaction with things like smart home environments, that sort of thing. I know there's thousands out there, and managing it could be a nightmare.
So it's a good question. So selfishly, since I have Tether installed at home, I do like the home automation stuff and adding support for it. In terms of our focus as a business, it's very much either high net worth or commercial. So those take priority. But what we will do as the lowest hanging fruit, and this is also on 2022 roadmap is integration with Zapier. So once we have Zapier integration, that means all of your Alexas and your Ring doorbells and all of those various things will be able to consume information out of Tether and feed information into Tether. So that is probably the easiest. It's not perfect because there's only so much you can do with that service. But it will kind of just open us up to be compatible with all those devices, which I think is a positive step. If someone's not familiar with Zapier, it's very similar to IFTTT, so that service, if this then that. It allows you to tell your Alexa that, when I come home, turn on my, order milk, whatever it may be. I don't know what people use this for. Or turn on the floodlight outside. So that will be integrated into Tether. So that kind of creates that bridges that gap between the residential market and the commercial markets. And the reason why we're doing that is IFTTT and Zapier in general are not limited to just residential, so this still works well for our target audience. But also it is just another way to add rules and add functionality, give flexibility to the customer, and we're all about Tether being that central place that gives you full visibility, not just some visibility.
Thanks.
Sorry, I was on mute, everyone. Okay, so if there are no more questions, I'd just like to say thank you, everybody, for joining us this morning. And if you have anything you'd like to follow up on from today's presentation from Roman, then please get in touch and we'll get those questions answered as well.
Brilliant.
Thanks, guys. Great presentation.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everybody. And yeah, please reach out to us, live chat, phone call. We're here to help.